Hello and welcome to FaithWorks Live. It's not too often I get to do a good news update from the State House, and so I'm going to take the opportunity with one very busy man, one of the so-called dauntless dozen. I didn't come up with that, but I really liked it, so I love alliteration. Kevin Alon's esteemed senator from our fine state is here with us with an update. Kevin, it's great to have you back with us.
Well, glad to be with you, Rebecca.
And
Well,
the bearer of good tidings. Yes, let's talk about, because when we had you here before, we were talking about the problems of eminent domain, in particular this carbon capture pipeline that had been proposed that we had serious concerns with, and you did a great job of explaining that and why it was time to stand up for property rights and against the abuse, potential abuse of eminent domain in our state. And yeah, you take it from there. What happened?
a lot happened. Obviously, it was a long several weeks. I can't remember exactly what day it was that we talked, but we met we were into extra innings in session anyway. So we were in the week after, and the whole process has been towards the end of session dealing with this issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we caucused on that extensively, and in the end, there was just a lot of pressure brought to bear to try to either use other language or really just did not run H6 the way it was. So going through that process, just a lot of pressure brought to bear, quite a few twists and turns. But that net result was that we ended up not having a vote. We did have floor debate on that Friday. Lose track of the days, what day that was, but first whatever that was, that Friday. So we went home for the weekend, came back, and then that Monday is when obviously it all finally went through the process. And there was a lot of pressure brought to bear. We had this group of 12 that I helped put together. So that really, I mean, there's just a number of challenges there. Obviously, had to get it to vote, had to try to get it to a clean vote, which is what we'd all pledged to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that meant we had to go through amendments. And just ironically, right, this is being brought by Republicans. Republicans have been fighting for this process or have been saying, look, we can't do anything about it now that it's underway.
Right.
And yeah, so then we went through the vote on the amendment, and when that went down, then now we're trying to get to the point where we're going to actually get enough votes for the bill. And of course, it's just again, just to reiterate, it's an interesting time, and you have to question really if you understand the will of the people when you find the most conservative Republicans, which I would argue this group is, the Democrats and the Sierra Club find themselves in this strange we're working together in some way, shape, or
Mm-hmm.
form. And so they in the end the Democrats stuck together through this, and that was there were some questions whether that was going to happen or not, and that did. And really the hardest part I think was just keeping the 12 together with the pressure of wanting to do something different from others that are talking. So anyway, yeah, it did come to a vote, and the vote felt the way that it did, and we ended up was whatever 27-22. I forget or 20. I think that's what it was.
I think you're right. Yep. So now we sit here and we are waiting for the governor's signature. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. So it did obviously that was in final extra readings of the legislative session this year, and so we did that on a Monday. We signed it on like early Friday morning. So
Mm-hmm.
that within the week. And so at this point, yeah, I mean, I haven't had a direct conversation with the governor, but I mean, I guess I'm hopeful that she will hear the will of people. I think it's pretty clear. I mean, at least from what I've been hearing from people, and just the response across the state from
Mm-hmm.
various political people, entities, central committees, that whole thing, just how they are appreciative that this 80-20 issue actually came to a vote the way it did. So
Right. And I
I'm
think
hoping that.
when people understand the issue, the protection of property is such a big deal. I think like that's a traditional American value, no matter which way you slice it, but especially in the Midwest, when so
Mhm.
many of us understand and appreciate how important property and land and the ability to be able to say, no, this is mine and the government can't come in and take it for whatever reason, it's critical to who we are as well as to our basic constitutional rights. So I think that when you get past maybe some of the lobbying efforts and the partisanship about it, hopefully that that is something that I would, again, you said it's an 80-20 issue. I'm kind of surprised it's not even higher, because that is so critical to who we are as Iowans, as Americans. I do know that, when money and other interests kind of get involved, that can cloud things sometimes. But I am impressed that this coalition was able to stay together and stand strong. You mentioned the pressure. I'd just like to hear, I know we've got limited time, but just a word about what it feels like to be on, for someone who hasn't been on the inside, so to speak. What does it feel like when you're at this controversial vote? You're going to take a stand and you say, okay, this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to lead on this. Many people in your position, I mean, even good intentioned people, don't want to stand up and be noticed in that way because of all the pressure. So I can imagine some of that, but I have not been in your position. So what is it like, and how do you withstand that kind of scrutiny and intense pressure when you're taking those kinds of political stands?
Well, I think I will give some credit to, first off, it's really quite, I think it's significant that larger group actually stood together under, because it wasn't just me under pressure. I mean, I feel like I probably faced most of it, and that maybe it was fairly obvious at the end of the day. But I, having grown up in the family I did, my father had gave me, I think there's just real inspiration there. I mean, he taught me that the Constitution is important. It has to be the bedrock of everything we stand for. And so you have to have strong convictions when you're going to do it. So you have to believe what you're doing is the right thing to do. And then I've been in situations like this before. Being a fighter pilot, you get situations where you have to make decisions, and you sometimes just you're not sure how things are going to go, and you just have to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I think really the key is you have to believe what you're standing for, and you have to be committed to it. And once you make that decision, then it's just a matter of resisting and fighting, ensuring that you just don't compromise on what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think it's super key. And the reason I mention it is because I think all of us will be faced with those types of decisions. There are many people who are afraid of the prospect of that. Like, what's it going to cost to stand for convictions? Isn't it easier to stay quiet, to kind of believe things in private, but I can go along to get along and have friends, and that's nice and fun. But when you are, all of us, I believe, as followers of Christ, will be faced with a choice, whether to go along with the world or to say, no, I'm going to stand for whatever that might be, whatever God puts in your path, to say, this is an opportunity to stand out for me, for the kingdom. What are you going to do with this? And so I appreciate courage anywhere. That is a Christian virtue that I think is hopefully making a resurgence, that we're seeing that. So whether it's on issue or this issue or any other, it is a wonderful thing to have an opportunity to honor courage. So thank you for that. And thank you again to that core group of lawmakers that were willing to stand and say, no, this is wrong. And even if there's pressure, we're still going to stand for what we know to be right, and ultimately for, I believe, the will of the people, for the Constitution. I don't think you can go wrong when you've got those on your side. You pray it up and you say, all right, let's go. So I appreciate that you and several others were willing to do that, Kevin. Thank you.
well, I appreciate thanks for your for that. And I continue to believe obviously it was the right thing to do. The Constitution, I believe, is it's a document that is respected around the world, and I believe God was involved in crafting that. I consider it a covenant between our country and really free people and God. And so it's the most important thing, just far and away.
Yeah. And that it doesn't really matter.
I don't mean to say it's more important than the Bible. I mean, but it was based on biblical values by biblical believing people.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our day, it is a covenant between free people and God in a very unique way, in a powerful way.
Absolutely. And I understand your priorities for sure. Word of God above all else, but at the same time, respecting those documents that respect that word, and that we can be judged fairly in this land, that we can have a land of freedom because specifically it is based on biblical principles, exactly as you said. Totally right. It sounds like you should teach a history class or something. That we should be bringing that back in, and I love it. And I also think, just one last point here that it's worth noting, it doesn't really matter what political party you have loyalty to, you still all have to abide by the same standard. It doesn't really matter if it's Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Pink Porcupine Party, whatever that might be. Our ultimate loyalty has to be both to God and to the people, and again to the laws of the land, which are the Constitution. And when they are just, that's exactly what we should be standing for. Whether we stand with many or we stand with God alone, that's a majority. So again, thank you, Kevin. I know you're busy like any good family man. Now you need to take a breather and spend some time with the people who love you the most, recharge, and get ready, because I mean, I'm sure the next fight is around the corner. But for just a moment, thank you so much again for continuing the fight, and I hope you get some good relaxation time.
Thank you very much. You have a great week, Rebecca.
Thanks, you too. Senator Kevin Alon's our special guest with a good news update from the State House, protecting property rights and all of our constitutional freedoms. Again, if we prize our freedoms, then we have to maintain the laws upon which they are based. That should be true for all Iowans, all Americans, consistently across the board. And with God's help, I believe that we can do that, for it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. So we appreciate the true freedom. We're thankful for salvation in Christ, and also for the freedom that he's given us in our land. And I pray that we have the courage and the gratitude to be able to protect it. So we're very thankful to Kevin and to those who are standing with him. And continue to pray for your lawmakers. Let this be your little reminder to pray for those who are in power, agree or disagree. We know ultimately that God is on the throne and that he has the power to change hearts and minds. Help us to be a part of that, Lord. And until next time, our mission is to love God, to serve people, and to live free. Thanks for listening to FaithWorks Live. At FaithWorks Live, we're proud to partner with InnerVision's Healthcare. In unplanned pregnancy and STD situations, they offer help and hope. It's all confidential and it's all free. If women are in a crisis pregnancy situation, they know that they can get real help at InnerVision's. Free pregnancy testing, free STD testing, free ultrasounds as well, to see that inner vision. Because women deserve the truth about their bodies, about their baby, about all of their options. And if a woman has gone down the road of seeking abortion through medication and she regrets that decision, InnerVisions also offers abortion pill reversal procedure, which is a life-saving, miraculous option to have right here in our own community. InnerVisions Healthcare, well worth supporting, providing those free services to women in crisis pregnancy. You can call them 24 hours a day at 515-440-2273. That's 515-440-2273. There's no better time than now to stand for life. And you can stand with Iowa's original pro-life organization, Pulse for Life. They're the longest standing nonprofit pro-life organization in Iowa, and they're dedicated to informing, educating, and inspiring a new generation to value the sanctity of all human life, from fertilization until natural death. They serve at the State House. They educate in classrooms, at events. They proudly serve on the coalition of pro-life leaders. They are on the front lines of the battle against this throwaway culture of death that we see all around us, and we are winning ground. Hearts and minds are changing, and the pro-life movement is continuing to grow. And you can be a part of the exciting things that are happening right here in our own backyard at pulseforlife.org, and get your finger on the pro-life pulse. Sign up for their newsletter, find ways that you can make a difference, and how you can change hearts and minds with their pro-life apologetics course, pulseforlife.org.